Marcus Rodriguez woke up at 5:30 in the morning, just like he did every day. The alarm clock made a loud noise that hurt his ears. He rolled out of bed and looked at his small apartment. The paint on the walls was old and dirty. The carpet had stains that would never come out. This was not the life he had wanted, but it was the life he had. He walked to the bathroom and looked at himself in the broken mirror. His face looked tired. His eyes had dark circles under them. He was only 34 years old, but he felt much older. Working as a driver in Los Angeles was hard work. The traffic was bad. The people were rude. The money was not enough. Marcus had 2 children. Their names were Sophia and Miguel. Sophia was 8 years old and Miguel was 6. They lived with their mother in a different part of the city. Marcus saw them every other weekend. He wanted to see them more, but his ex-wife Maria said he had to pay more money first. Money was always the problem. He got dressed in his black suit. The suit was cheap and it did not fit him well. The company said all drivers had to wear black suits. Marcus did not like wearing suits. They made him feel like he was pretending to be someone he was not. But he needed the job, so he wore the suit every day. Marcus worked for a company called Elite Executive Transport. The company had big black cars that looked expensive. Rich people called the company when they needed rides. Movie stars, business people, and other wealthy clients used their service. Marcus had been driving for this company for 3 years. In those 3 years, he had seen many famous people. Most of them acted like they were better than everyone else. He went to the kitchen and made coffee. The coffee was cheap and it tasted bad, but it helped him wake up. He looked at his phone and saw a text message from his supervisor, Jennifer Walsh. The message said he had a pickup at 9 o'clock in the morning. The client was staying at a fancy hotel in Beverly Hills. The name on the booking was T. Cruz. Marcus did not think much about the name. He had driven many people with strange names. Some celebrities used fake names when they booked rides. Others used their real names, but Marcus did not know who they were. He was not interested in movies or famous people. He just wanted to do his job and go home. He finished his coffee and walked outside to his car. His personal car was old and had many problems. The air conditioning did not work. The radio only played one station. The paint was faded and there were dents on the side. Marcus was embarrassed by his car, but he could not afford a better one. He drove to the Elite Executive Transport office. The office was in a nice part of town. The building was new and clean. Inside there were pictures of expensive cars on the walls. The company logo was everywhere. Marcus always felt out of place in the office. The other employees seemed happy and excited about their work. Marcus just felt tired. He picked up the keys to his assigned car for the day. It was a black Mercedes sedan. The car was worth more money than Marcus made in 2 years. The leather seats were soft and clean. The dashboard had buttons that Marcus was afraid to touch. He had been driving these expensive cars for 3 years, but he still felt nervous around them. The company had rules about how drivers should act. They had to be polite. They had to smile. They had to open doors for clients. They had to say please and thank you. Marcus knew all the rules, but he did not always follow them. He thought the rules were stupid. Why should he pretend to be happy when he was not happy? Marcus started driving toward Beverly Hills. The traffic was already getting bad. Cars were moving slowly on the freeway. Everyone was trying to get to work at the same time. Marcus looked at the other drivers. They all looked angry and stressed. Los Angeles traffic made everyone angry. He thought about his life as he drove. 3 years ago, he had thought this job would be temporary. He had planned to save money and start his own business. Maybe a small restaurant or a repair shop, but the money from driving was just enough to pay his bills. There was never anything left over to save. His ex-wife Maria called him sometimes to ask for more money. She said the children needed new clothes or school supplies. Marcus wanted to help, but he barely had enough money for himself. His rent was expensive. Food was expensive. Gas for the car was expensive. Everything in Los Angeles was expensive. Marcus had started to feel angry about his situation. He saw rich people every day who spent more money on one dinner than he made in a week. They complained about small problems while he worried about big problems. They lived in huge houses while he lived in a tiny apartment. It did not seem fair. The GPS on his phone told him to take the next exit. He was getting close to the hotel. Beverly Hills was a different world from where Marcus lived. The streets were clean. The buildings were beautiful. The cars were all expensive. Even the trees looked better in Beverly Hills. He had picked up clients from this hotel many times before. It was one of the most expensive hotels in the city. The rooms cost more money per night than Marcus made in a month. The hotel workers always treated the drivers like they were invisible. They would talk to the rich clients but ignore the drivers completely. Marcus parked the car in front of the hotel. A man in a uniform came over to him. The man told Marcus he could not park there. Marcus showed him his company badge. The man looked at the badge and then pointed to a different parking spot. Marcus moved the car to where the man told him to park. He looked at his phone. It was 8:55 in the morning. The pickup was supposed to be at 9 o'clock. Marcus was always on time, but he did not feel good about it. Being on time was just another way that rich people controlled his life. They expected him to wait for them, but they never waited for anyone else. Marcus sat in the car and waited. He played a game on his phone to pass the time. The game was about matching colored blocks. It was simple, and it helped him forget about his problems for a few minutes. He had been playing the same game for months. It was one of the few things in his life that never changed or disappointed him. At exactly 9 o'clock, Marcus saw a man walking out of the hotel. The man was not very tall, but he walked with confidence. He had brown hair and was wearing simple clothes: jeans, a white shirt, and a leather jacket. He was carrying a small black bag. Marcus looked at him and thought he looked familiar, but he could not remember where he had seen him before. The man walked toward the car. Marcus stayed in his seat and kept playing his game on the phone. He did not get out to open the door. He did not smile or wave. He just sat there and waited for the man to get in the car by himself. This was not what the company rules said to do, but Marcus did not care about the rules today. The man knocked on the window. Marcus looked up from his phone with an annoyed expression on his face. He rolled down the window just a little bit. The man said hello in a friendly voice and asked if this was the car for T. Cruz. Marcus nodded and pointed to the back seat with his thumb. He did not say anything. The man tried to open the back door, but it was locked. He knocked on the window again. Marcus rolled his eyes and pressed the button to unlock the doors. He did this very slowly to show that he was not happy about it. The man got into the back seat and closed the door carefully. Marcus looked in the mirror at his passenger. Now he could see the man's face clearly. Something about him looked very familiar. Marcus thought maybe he had seen him in a movie or on television, but Marcus did not watch many movies, so he was not sure. He decided the man was probably just another actor who thought he was important. The man put on his seatbelt and said good morning to Marcus. His voice was polite and friendly. Marcus did not say good morning back. Instead, he started the car and began driving without saying anything. The man told Marcus the address where he needed to go. It was a movie studio in Burbank. Marcus knew the way, but he did not say that he knew. He just started driving. After a few minutes, the man spoke again. He said thank you for the ride and asked Marcus how his day was going. Marcus looked at him in the mirror with a cold expression. He said his day was fine, but his voice showed that he did not want to talk. The man smiled anyway and said that was good to hear. Marcus was already feeling annoyed. Rich people always tried to be friendly at first. They thought it made them look like good people. But Marcus knew they did not really care about drivers. They were just being polite because it made them feel better about themselves. After a few minutes, they would start treating him like a servant. The traffic was getting worse as they got onto the freeway. Cars were moving very slowly. Marcus turned on the radio without asking if the passenger minded. The music was loud rock music that Marcus liked. It was probably too loud for a professional car service, but Marcus did not care. The man in the back seat did not complain about the music. Marcus got a phone call on his personal phone. It was his friend Tony, who also worked as a driver for a different company. Tony called Marcus almost every day to complain about his job. Marcus answered the phone even though he was supposed to be working. He did not use a hands-free device. He just held the phone to his ear while driving. Tony started talking about a rude customer he had driven the day before. The customer had yelled at Tony for being 2 minutes late. Tony was very angry about it. Marcus joined in the conversation and started complaining about rich people in general. He said they were all the same. Spoiled, rude, and demanding. Marcus talked loudly so that his passenger could hear everything he was saying. He wanted the man to know what he really thought about wealthy clients. Marcus said that actors were the worst kind of rich people. He said they lived in a fantasy world and thought they were better than everyone else. The man in the back seat stayed quiet during this conversation. Marcus could see in the mirror that the man was listening, but he did not look angry. He just looked sad. Marcus thought the man was probably feeling guilty because he knew Marcus was talking about people like him. Marcus continued talking to Tony for 10 more minutes. He complained about his ex-wife, his money problems, and his job. He used some bad words during the conversation. He did not care that there was a customer in the car listening to everything. When he finally hung up the phone, he did not apologize for the long personal call. The man in the back seat tried to start a conversation again. He asked Marcus how long he had been driving for Elite Executive Transport. Marcus answered in a short, rude way. He said 3 years, but he did not explain anything else. The man asked if Marcus liked the job. Marcus laughed in a mean way and said it paid the bills. The man seemed like he wanted to keep talking, but Marcus turned up the radio even louder. The music was now so loud that it was hard to have a conversation. The man got the message and stopped trying to talk. He took out his own phone and started looking at it instead. Marcus felt good about showing this rich passenger that he was not going to act like a servant. He was tired of pretending to be happy and polite when he was not happy or polite. Why should he smile and say nice things to people who had so much more money than him? It was not fair that he had to pretend to be grateful for their business. The drive to Burbank usually took about 45 minutes in normal traffic. But today the traffic was worse than usual. There had been an accident on the freeway, so all the cars had to move into fewer lanes. This made Marcus even more angry. He started complaining out loud about the traffic, the other drivers, and the city of Los Angeles in general. Marcus looked at his passenger in the mirror again. The man was still looking at his phone, but Marcus could tell he was listening to everything Marcus was saying. Marcus decided to make his complaints even more obvious. He started talking about how much he hated driving rich people around the city. Marcus said that wealthy people never appreciated the work that drivers did. He said they thought drivers were just robots who existed to serve them. He said that actors were especially bad because they thought they were famous and important. The man in the back seat looked up from his phone when Marcus said this, but he still did not say anything. As they got closer to the studio, the man tried one more time to be friendly. He asked Marcus if he had ever been to this particular studio before. Marcus said yes many times, but he said it in a way that sounded bored and annoyed. The man asked if Marcus had ever met any famous actors. Marcus said he had driven many actors, but they were all the same. Rude and self-centered. The man nodded and went back to looking at his phone. Marcus could see that his passenger looked uncomfortable now. Marcus felt satisfied that he had made his point clear. He was not going to act fake and friendly just because someone had money. Rich people needed to understand that drivers were real people with real problems, not just smiling robots. The traffic jam was getting worse. Cars were barely moving on the freeway. Marcus looked at the clock on the dashboard and saw that they were going to be late. He did not care if his passenger was late, but he knew his supervisor Jennifer would not be happy if clients complained about late arrivals. Still, Marcus did not apologize or explain the situation to the man in the back seat. Marcus decided to take a different route to avoid some of the traffic. He changed lanes quickly without warning his passenger. The man in the back seat had to hold on to the door handle when Marcus made a sharp turn. Marcus saw this in the mirror and almost smiled. He liked showing these rich people that he was in control of the car. As they drove through the side streets, Marcus got another phone call. This time it was his ex-wife, Maria. She was calling about money again. Marcus answered the phone even though he had a passenger in the car. He did not excuse himself or ask if it was okay to take the call. He just answered and started talking. Maria was angry because Marcus had not sent enough money for the children's school supplies. She said Sophia needed new books and Miguel needed a new backpack. Marcus got angry and started arguing with her. He said he was doing his best, but he did not make enough money to pay for everything. Maria said that was not her problem. The argument got louder and louder. Marcus was shouting into the phone while driving. He was saying bad words and complaining about how expensive everything was. The man in the back seat could hear every word of the conversation. Marcus did not care. He was too angry to think about being professional. Marcus told Maria that he was tired of her always asking for more money. He said she should get a better job instead of depending on him for everything. Maria got very angry and started shouting back. She said Marcus was a terrible father who did not care about his children. This made Marcus even more angry. The phone call lasted for 15 minutes. During this time, Marcus was driving badly because he was distracted and upset. He was going too fast on some streets and too slow on others. He ran through a yellow light that was almost red. He did not signal when he changed lanes. The man in the back seat looked worried about the driving, but he did not say anything. When Marcus finally hung up the phone, he was in a very bad mood. He started complaining out loud about his ex-wife, his children, and his money problems. He was talking to himself, but he was speaking loud enough for his passenger to hear everything. Marcus said that women always wanted more money and never appreciated what men did for them. The man in the back seat cleared his throat and spoke for the first time in a while. He said that Marcus seemed upset and asked if everything was okay. His voice was kind and concerned, but Marcus did not want kindness from a rich person. He thought the man was just being fake polite again. Marcus looked at the man in the mirror with an angry expression. He said that everything was fine and rich people did not need to worry about normal people's problems. The man looked surprised by this rude response. He said he was just trying to be helpful. Marcus laughed in a mean way and said that wealthy people never really helped anyone except themselves. They were getting close to the movie studio now. The man took out his phone and made a call to someone. He spoke quietly, but Marcus could hear that he was telling someone he would be about 10 minutes late because of traffic. The man was polite and apologetic on the phone. He did not blame Marcus for the delay, even though Marcus had wasted time with personal phone calls. After the man finished his call, Marcus decided to make his opinions even more clear. He started talking about how much he disliked the entertainment industry. He said that actors made too much money for pretending to be other people. He said that movies were a waste of time and money. He said that Hollywood was full of fake people who thought they were better than everyone else. Marcus was looking at his passenger in the mirror while he said these things. He wanted to see if the man would get angry or offended. But the man just listened quietly with a sad expression on his face. He did not argue or defend actors or the movie industry. This surprised Marcus a little bit, but it also made him want to say more insulting things. Marcus said that actors lived in mansions while normal people could barely afford apartments. He said that they spent more money on one dinner than working people made in a month. He said that they complained about small problems while ignoring the real problems of ordinary citizens. The man in the back seat nodded slightly, as if he agreed with some of what Marcus was saying. As they turned into the parking lot of the movie studio, Marcus made one final rude comment. He said that he was glad he did not have to pretend to be someone else for a living like actors did. He said that at least his job was honest work, even if it did not pay well. The man in the back seat looked at Marcus in the mirror and said quietly that honest work was very important. Marcus stopped the car at the main entrance of the studio. There were security guards at the gate who checked everyone who entered. Marcus turned around in his seat to look at his passenger directly. He said the ride was over, and the fare would be charged to the company account. His voice was cold and unfriendly. The man started to get out of the car, but then he stopped and turned back to Marcus. He said that he was sorry Marcus was having such a difficult time with money and family problems. He said that everyone deserved to be treated with respect, no matter what job they did. His voice was sincere and kind. Marcus was surprised by this response. He had expected the man to be angry or to complain about the bad service. Instead, the man was showing sympathy for Marcus's problems. This made Marcus feel a little bit uncomfortable. He had not expected a rich person to respond with kindness, but Marcus did not want to admit that he might have been wrong about this passenger. Instead, he just shrugged and said, that was just how life was for working people. The man nodded and said he understood. Then he said something that surprised Marcus even more. He said that he hoped things would get better for Marcus and his family. The man got out of the car and closed the door gently. He walked toward the studio entrance without looking back. Marcus watched him go and felt confused about the whole interaction. The man had been more polite and kind than most of his passengers, even though Marcus had been rude to him the entire time. Marcus drove away from the studio feeling strange. Part of him felt satisfied that he had shown a rich person what he really thought about wealthy clients. But another part of him felt a little bit guilty. The man had not been mean or demanding like many other passengers. He had actually seemed like a nice person who was trying to be friendly. but Marcus pushed these thoughts away. He told himself that the man was probably just good at acting nice. That was what actors did for a living, after all. They pretended to be different people. Marcus decided that the man was probably just as selfish and spoiled as all the other rich people he drove around every day. After dropping off his passenger at the movie studio, Marcus drove back to the elite executive transport office. He felt good about standing up for himself during the ride. He was tired of pretending to be happy and polite when he was not. Rich people needed to understand that drivers were real people, with real feelings and real problems. Marcus returned the car keys to the front desk and checked his schedule for the rest of the day. He had 3 more pickups scheduled. All of them were short rides around the city. Marcus hoped these next passengers would be easier to deal with than the morning client. He did not have the energy for more fake conversations with wealthy people. He went to the break room to eat his lunch. Marcus had brought a sandwich from home because he could not afford to buy food from restaurants every day. The break room was small and had old furniture. There were a few other drivers sitting at the plastic tables eating their own lunches. Most of them looked as tired as Marcus felt. Marcus sat down at an empty table and took out his phone. He had a text message from his friend Tony asking how his day was going. Marcus texted back that he had just driven another spoiled actor, who probably thought he was very important. Tony texted back with laughing emojis and said that all rich people were the same. While Marcus was eating his sandwich, another driver named Carlos sat down at his table. Carlos had been working for the company for 5 years. He was older than Marcus and had more experience with difficult passengers. Carlos asked Marcus how his morning pickup had gone. Marcus told Carlos about the ride to the movie studio. He explained how he had taken personal phone calls and played loud music. He told Carlos about his argument with his ex-wife and how he had complained about actors in front of the passenger. Carlos looked worried as he listened to this story. Carlos told Marcus that he needed to be more careful about his behavior with clients. He said that elite executive transport had a very good reputation, and the company expected drivers to be professional at all times. Marcus said he did not care about the company's reputation. He was tired of acting fake for people who did not respect him. Carlos shook his head and said that Marcus was making a mistake. He told Marcus that some of their clients were very important people who could cause problems for drivers who did not treat them well. Marcus laughed and said that rich people complained about everything anyway. He said it did not matter how polite he was because they would find something to criticize. After lunch, Marcus went to his car to start his afternoon pickups. His first ride was an older businessman who needed to go to the airport. The man was polite and professional. He did not try to make conversation, and Marcus did not try to talk to him either. The ride went smoothly without any problems. Marcus's second pickup was a woman who needed to go to a shopping mall. She was talking loudly on her phone during the entire ride. She was complaining to someone about her personal trainer and her housekeeper. Marcus found her annoying, but at least she did not try to talk to him. He was able to ignore her and focus on driving. The third pickup was a young man who worked for a technology company. He was going to a business meeting downtown. The man was friendly and asked Marcus about traffic conditions and the best route to take. Marcus answered his questions politely, but did not engage in much conversation. This passenger left a good tip, which improved Marcus's mood a little bit. At the end of his shift, Marcus returned to the elite executive transport office to turn in his paperwork. He was looking forward to going home and watching television. It had been a long day, and he was tired of dealing with people. All he wanted was to relax in his apartment and forget about work for a while. As Marcus was walking toward the exit, the receptionist called his name. She told him that his supervisor, Jennifer Walsh, wanted to see him in her office right away. Marcus felt annoyed because he just wanted to go home. He wondered what Jennifer wanted to talk about. Maybe there was a problem with his paperwork or his schedule. Marcus walked to Jennifer's office and knocked on the door. Jennifer told him to come in and sit down. Jennifer was a woman in her 40s who had been working for the company for many years. She was usually friendly with the drivers, but today she looked serious and concerned. Jennifer had some papers on her desk and a computer screen open in front of her. She looked at Marcus with a worried expression and asked him to tell her about his morning pickup. She wanted to know every detail about the ride to the movie studio. Marcus felt confused about why she was asking these questions. Marcus told Jennifer about the morning ride, but he did not mention all the rude things he had done. He said the passenger had been quiet and polite. He did not tell her about the personal phone calls or the loud music. He certainly did not mention his complaints about actors and rich people. He tried to make it sound like a normal professional ride. Jennifer listened to Marcus's story, but she did not look convinced. She told Marcus that the company had received a complaint about his behavior during the morning pickup. Someone had called the office to report that Marcus had been unprofessional and rude to his passenger. Jennifer asked Marcus if he wanted to change his story about what had happened. Marcus felt his heart beating faster. He had not expected anyone to complain about the ride. The passenger had seemed nice enough when he got out of the car. Marcus thought maybe the man had complained because Marcus had not been friendly and smiling like other drivers. Rich people always expected special treatment. Marcus told Jennifer that he had not been rude to anyone. He said that maybe the passenger was just upset about the traffic delay. Some clients complained about things that were not the driver's fault. Marcus said that he had done his job and delivered the passenger safely to his destination. Jennifer shook her head and said that the complaint was very detailed and specific. The person who called had described exactly what Marcus had done wrong during the ride. They had mentioned the personal phone calls, the loud music, and the unprofessional comments about actors and wealthy people. Someone had been paying very close attention to Marcus's behavior. Marcus realized that he had been caught in his lie. The passenger had obviously heard and remembered everything Marcus had said and done during the ride. Marcus felt embarrassed and angry at the same time. He had not thought that the quiet man in the back seat would actually complain to the company about his service. Jennifer told Marcus that this type of complaint was very serious. Elite Executive Transport prided itself on providing excellent customer service to all clients. Drivers who behaved unprofessionally could be suspended or even fired. Jennifer said she needed to investigate the complaint more thoroughly before deciding what action to take. Marcus asked Jennifer who had made the complaint. He wanted to know which passenger had reported him to the company. But Jennifer said that client information was confidential and she could not tell him who had called. She just said that it was someone who had used their service that morning and had been very disappointed with Marcus's behavior. Jennifer told Marcus to sit down because she had something very important to discuss with him. Her voice was serious and her face looked worried. Marcus sat in the chair across from her desk and waited. He was starting to feel nervous about how serious this complaint seemed to be. Most client complaints were simple things that could be fixed with an apology. Jennifer opened a filing cabinet behind her desk and took out a thick folder. The folder had Marcus's name written on it in big letters. Inside were all of his employment records from the past 3 years. Jennifer spread some of the papers across her desk so Marcus could see them. There were his job application, his driving record, and reports from his supervisors. Jennifer also had her computer screen turned toward Marcus. On the screen was an email that had been sent to the company's main office earlier that day. The email was marked as urgent and confidential. Marcus could see that it was about his morning pickup, but he could not read all the details from where he was sitting. Jennifer looked at Marcus with a very serious expression. She asked him if he knew who owned Elite Executive Transport. Marcus shrugged his shoulders and said he had never really thought about it. He assumed it was probably some big corporation or maybe a group of investors. Most companies were owned by people that regular employees never met. Marcus had never been curious about who owned the company. He just needed a job that paid his bills. He did not care about the business side of things. As long as he got his paycheck every 2 weeks, the ownership of the company did not matter to him. He had more important things to worry about, like his rent and his children. Jennifer reached into another drawer and pulled out some official-looking documents. The papers were legal business forms that showed who had started the company and who owned shares in it. She placed these documents in front of Marcus and told him to look at them carefully. Marcus looked down at the papers but did not understand what he was supposed to see. The documents had a lot of legal words that Marcus did not understand. There were percentages and dollar amounts and dates, but one name appeared several times throughout the papers. The name was Thomas Cruz Mapother IV. Marcus read this name, but it did not mean anything to him at first. He had never heard of anyone with that name. Jennifer pointed to the name on the documents and asked Marcus if he recognized it. Marcus shook his head and said he had never heard of Thomas Cruz Mapother IV. Jennifer asked him if the name Tom Cruise meant anything to him. Marcus said of course he knew who Tom Cruise was. Everyone knew that name. Tom Cruise was a famous movie actor. Then Jennifer explained something that made Marcus feel like the room was spinning around him. She said that Thomas Cruise Mapother IV was the real legal name of the actor Tom Cruise. The documents showed that Tom Cruise was the majority shareholder and founding investor of Elite Executive Transport. He had started the company in 2018 with his own money. Marcus stared at the documents in shock. His mouth fell open and he could not speak for several seconds. He read the name over and over again, trying to understand what this meant. Tom Cruise owned the company where Marcus worked. Tom Cruise was Marcus's ultimate boss. This information was too surprising for Marcus to process quickly. Jennifer continued explaining the situation, while Marcus tried to understand what she was telling him. She said that Tom Cruise had invested in the transportation company because he wanted to provide excellent service to people in the entertainment industry. He had chosen this business because he understood how important reliable transportation was for busy professionals. Marcus finally found his voice and asked Jennifer what this had to do with his morning pickup. He was still trying to connect the information about Tom Cruise owning the company with the complaint about his driving service. Jennifer looked at him with a mixture of sympathy and disappointment. Jennifer told Marcus that the complaint about his behavior had not come from just any random client. The complaint had come directly from Tom Cruise himself. Marcus had spent the entire morning being rude and unprofessional to the owner of his own company. The passenger that Marcus had insulted and disrespected was actually his boss. Marcus felt like he was going to be sick. His face turned white and his hands started shaking. He remembered everything he had said during that car ride. He had complained about actors being spoiled and fake. He had said that wealthy people did not care about working people. He had been rude and dismissive to Tom Cruise without knowing who he was. Jennifer showed Marcus the email that Tom Cruise's assistant had sent to the company. The email described in detail everything that Marcus had done wrong during the pickup. It mentioned the personal phone calls, the loud music, the rude comments about actors, and the unprofessional attitude throughout the entire ride. Marcus put his head in his hands and tried to think about what this meant for his job. He had been disrespectful to the owner of the company. This was probably the worst thing that could happen to an employee. Marcus was sure that he was going to be fired immediately. There was no way that Tom Cruise would allow someone who had insulted him to continue working for his company. Jennifer told Marcus that the situation was very serious. She said that in her 15 years of working for Elite Executive Transport, she had never seen a complaint come directly from the company owner. Most complaints came from regular clients and could be handled with training or warnings. But this was different because it involved the person who had invested his own money to start the company. Marcus asked Jennifer what was going to happen to him. He wanted to know if he was going to be fired right away, or if there would be some kind of investigation first. He also wanted to know if this would affect his ability to get another job in the transportation industry. A bad reference from Elite Executive Transport would make it very hard for him to find work elsewhere. Jennifer said that she was not sure what would happen next. The decision about Marcus's employment would have to come from higher up in the company. She said that Tom Cruise's office would probably want to discuss the situation before making any final decisions. This meant that Marcus would have to wait to find out if he still had a job. Marcus thought about his rent payment that was due next week. He thought about the money he owed his ex-wife for the children's expenses. He thought about how hard it would be to find another job if he got fired from this one. All of these money problems seemed much bigger now that his job was in danger. Jennifer told Marcus that he should go home and think about what had happened. She said that someone from the company would contact him within the next few days to let him know what the decision was about his employment. Marcus nodded and stood up to leave, but his legs felt weak and unsteady. As Marcus walked toward the door, Jennifer called his name one more time. She told him that this situation might have been avoided if he had followed the company's rules about professional behavior with all clients. She said that every passenger deserved to be treated with respect, regardless of who they were or how much money they had. Marcus walked out of Jennifer's office feeling like his whole world had just collapsed. His legs felt weak and his head was spinning. He could not believe what he had just learned. For 3 years he had been working for Tom Cruise without knowing it. And this morning he had spent 45 minutes insulting and disrespecting his own boss. Marcus sat in his old car in the parking lot outside the elite executive transport office. He could not bring himself to start the engine and drive home yet. He needed time to think about what had just happened. His hands were still shaking from the shock of learning that Tom Cruise owned the company where he worked. Marcus tried to remember every detail of the morning pickup. He thought about how rude he had been to the man in the back seat. He remembered taking personal phone calls and playing loud music. He remembered complaining about actors and rich people. All of these things had been directed at Tom Cruise, one of the most famous actors in the world. The more Marcus thought about his behavior, the worse he felt. He had not just been unprofessional with a regular client. He had been disrespectful to someone who had invested millions of dollars to create jobs for people like Marcus. Tom Cruise had started Elite Executive Transport to provide good service to clients, and Marcus had given him the worst possible experience. Marcus finally started his car and began driving home. The traffic was heavy, but he barely noticed it. His mind was completely focused on the terrible mistake he had made. He thought about how Tom Cruise must have felt sitting in the back seat, listening to Marcus complain about actors and wealthy people. It must have been very uncomfortable and insulting. When Marcus got to his apartment, he sat on his old couch and stared at the wall. The apartment looked even smaller and more depressing than usual. The stained carpet and peeling paint reminded him of how little money he had. If he lost his job at Elite Executive Transport, he would probably have to move to an even cheaper place. Marcus thought about calling his friend Tony to tell him what had happened, but he felt too embarrassed to explain the situation to anyone. How could he tell people that he had spent the morning insulting Tom Cruise without knowing who he was? It sounded like something from a comedy movie, except it was not funny when it happened in real life. Marcus also thought about his children, Sophia and Miguel. If he lost his job, he would not be able to send money to help pay for their school supplies and clothes. His ex-wife Maria was already angry about money problems. She would be even more upset if Marcus stopped sending payments because he got fired for being rude to a client. That evening, Marcus could not eat dinner or watch television. He just sat in his apartment thinking about what would happen next. Jennifer had said that someone from the company would contact him within a few days to tell him about his employment status. These would be the longest few days of Marcus's life. Marcus did not sleep well that night. He kept having dreams about being fired and not being able to find another job. He dreamed about having to explain to his children why he could not see them anymore, because he could not afford to pay child support. He woke up several times feeling worried and scared about his future. The next morning, Marcus's phone rang very early. He thought it might be Jennifer calling to tell him that he was fired. But when he looked at the caller ID, he saw that it was his ex-wife Maria. Marcus did not want to talk to her because he did not want to explain what had happened with his job. But Maria kept calling until he finally answered. Maria was calling to ask about the money for Sophia's school field trip. The trip cost $50 and Maria needed Marcus to send the money by the end of the week. Marcus told Maria that he might have some problems with work, and he was not sure if he could send the money right away. Maria got angry and started shouting at him about being irresponsible. Marcus hung up the phone without explaining the details of his work situation. He could not handle Maria's anger on top of everything else he was dealing with. He turned off his phone so she could not call him back. He needed time to figure out his problems before he could deal with other people's demands. Marcus spent the whole day at home waiting for a phone call from Elite Executive Transport. Every time his phone made a noise, he thought it might be news about his job. But the only calls he received were from telemarketers and his friend Tony. Marcus did not answer any of the calls because he was too nervous to talk to anyone. On the second day of waiting, Marcus decided to look up information about Tom Cruise on the internet. He wanted to learn more about the man he had insulted. Marcus discovered that Tom Cruise was not just a famous actor. He was also a successful businessman who owned several companies. Elite Executive Transport was just one of his business investments. Marcus read that Tom Cruise was known for being very professional and hardworking. He was famous for doing his own dangerous stunts in movies and for being polite to everyone he worked with. This made Marcus feel even worse about his behavior. He had been rude to someone who was known for treating other people with respect. Marcus also learned that Tom Cruise had grown up in a poor family and had worked many different jobs before becoming an actor. He had been a busboy, a newspaper delivery boy, and had even worked in construction. This information surprised Marcus because he had assumed that all wealthy actors had always been rich. Reading about Tom Cruise's background made Marcus realized that he had made many wrong assumptions about his passenger. Marcus had thought that Tom Cruise was just another spoiled rich person who had never experienced real problems. But Tom Cruise had actually worked regular jobs and understood what it was like to struggle financially. On the third day of waiting, Marcus finally received the phone call he had been dreading. It was Jennifer calling from the Elite Executive Transport office. Her voice sounded serious when she told Marcus that she needed to meet with him again. She said that Tom Cruise's office had made a decision about Marcus's employment status. Marcus asked Jennifer if she could just tell him over the phone whether he was fired or not. He did not want to go through the stress of another meeting if he was just going to be given termination papers. But Jennifer said that the situation was more complicated than a simple firing. She said that Marcus needed to come to the office to discuss what would happen next. Marcus agreed to meet with Jennifer the following morning. After he hung up the phone, he spent the rest of the day trying to prepare himself for the worst possible outcome. He assumed that he would be fired and that he would need to start looking for a new job immediately. He had no idea that something very different was about to happen. Marcus arrived at the Elite Executive Transport office the next morning, feeling like he was walking to his own execution. He had barely slept the night before and his stomach was churning with anxiety. He was sure that Jennifer was going to hand him termination papers and ask him to clean out his locker. Marcus had even brought a small box from home to carry his personal items. Marcus sat in the waiting area outside Jennifer's office for what felt like hours, but was probably only 10 minutes. His hands were sweating and he kept checking his phone for the time. Other drivers walked past him on their way to pick up car keys for their shifts. Marcus wondered if this would be the last time he would ever see this office. Finally, Jennifer opened her door and called Marcus inside. She looked more serious than he had ever seen her before. Marcus walked into the office expecting to see termination papers on her desk, but instead he saw something that confused him. There were no papers ready for him to sign. Jennifer's computer was open to an email, but Marcus could not see what it said. Jennifer told Marcus to sit down and said that she had some surprising news about his situation. Marcus braced himself for the worst, thinking that maybe Tom Cruise was planning to sue him or make sure he never worked in the transportation industry again. Rich and powerful people could make life very difficult for ordinary workers who crossed them. But what Jennifer told him next was not what Marcus had expected at all. She said that Tom Cruise's office had called the previous afternoon with instructions about how to handle Marcus's case. Marcus had assumed that these instructions would be to fire him immediately. Instead, Jennifer said that Tom Cruise did not want Marcus to be fired right away. Marcus stared at Jennifer in shock. He asked her to repeat what she had just said because he was sure he had misunderstood. Jennifer said again that Tom Cruise did not want to terminate Marcus's employment immediately. Instead, he wanted to meet with Marcus personally to discuss what had happened during the car ride. Marcus could not believe what he was hearing. Tom Cruise, one of the most famous people in the world, wanted to have a personal meeting with him. Marcus had expected to be fired and forgotten about. He had never imagined that someone as important as Tom Cruise would want to waste time talking to a driver who had been rude to him. Jennifer explained that Tom Cruise's assistant had called to set up this meeting. The assistant had said that Tom Cruise believed in giving people second chances when they made mistakes. He wanted to understand why Marcus had behaved so unprofessionally during the car ride. The meeting was scheduled for the following day at Tom Cruise's office in Hollywood. Marcus asked Jennifer if he had to attend this meeting or if he could just accept being fired instead. The idea of sitting face-to-face with Tom Cruise was terrifying to Marcus. He would have to explain his rude behavior and apologize for all the insulting things he had said. Marcus was not good at talking to important people, and he was afraid of making the situation even worse. Jennifer told Marcus that attending the meeting was not optional. Tom Cruise's office had made it clear that this was the only way Marcus could keep his job. If he refused to attend the meeting, he would be terminated immediately. If he went to the meeting, there was a chance that he could continue working for Elite Executive Transport after some kind of disciplinary action. Marcus spent the rest of that day trying to prepare for the most important meeting of his life. He practiced what he would say to Tom Cruise. He would apologize for his behavior, and explained that he had been having personal problems that affected his attitude at work. He would promise to be more professional in the future if he was given another chance. Marcus also thought about what he should wear to the meeting. His only suit was the cheap black one he wore for driving, and it did not fit him very well. He decided to borrow a better suit from his friend Tony, who was about the same size. Marcus wanted to look as professional as possible when he met with Tom Cruise. That evening, Marcus called his ex-wife Maria to tell her about the situation. He explained that he might lose his job because of a problem at work. Maria was angry and asked Marcus how he could be so careless with his employment when they had children to support. Marcus did not tell her that he had been rude to Tom Cruise because he was too embarrassed. Marcus also called his friend Tony to ask for advice about the meeting. Tony was shocked when Marcus told him that Tom Cruise owned Elite Executive Transport. Tony said that Marcus was probably going to be fired no matter what happened in the meeting. He said that rich people liked to humiliate workers before they got rid of them. But Marcus was starting to think that maybe Tom Cruise was different from other wealthy people. If Tom Cruise only wanted to humiliate him, why would he bother with a personal meeting? It would be easier to just fire Marcus and hire someone else. The fact that Tom Cruise was willing to meet with him suggested that there might be hope for keeping his job. The night before the meeting, Marcus could not eat dinner or concentrate on anything. He kept thinking about what had happened during the car ride and how he could explain his behavior to Tom Cruise. Marcus realized that he had been angry about his own life problems and had taken that anger out on an innocent passenger. Marcus also thought about what he had learned about Tom Cruise's background. He remembered reading that Tom Cruise had grown up poor and had worked regular jobs before becoming famous. Maybe Tom Cruise would understand why Marcus had been frustrated about money and work problems. Maybe he would be more sympathetic than Marcus expected. The morning of the meeting, Marcus woke up very early and took a long shower. He put on Tony's borrowed suit and looked at himself in the mirror. He looked more professional than usual, but he still felt nervous about meeting one of the most famous people in the world. Marcus had never been inside a Hollywood office building or talked to a celebrity before. Marcus drove to Hollywood and found the address that Jennifer had given him. The building was tall and modern with glass windows and expensive-looking decoration. There were security guards at the entrance who checked Marcus's identification and gave him a visitor badge. Marcus felt out of place in this fancy environment. Marcus took an elevator to the 20th floor where Tom Cruise's office was located. The hallway had thick carpet and expensive artwork on the walls. Marcus had never been in such a luxurious office building before. He felt like he was in a different world from his own small apartment and daily struggles. When Marcus reached the reception area outside Tom Cruise's office, a friendly woman told him to have a seat and wait. She offered him coffee or water, but Marcus was too nervous to drink anything. His stomach was already upset from anxiety, and he did not want to make it worse. After a few minutes, the receptionist told Marcus that Tom Cruise was ready to see him. She led him to a conference room with a large table and comfortable chairs. Marcus sat down and waited, wondering what Tom Cruise would say to him and whether he would be able to keep his job after this meeting. Marcus sat alone in the conference room for what felt like a very long time, but was probably only 5 minutes. His hands were shaking and his mouth felt dry. He kept looking at the door, waiting for Tom Cruise to walk in. Marcus had practiced his apology many times, but now he could not remember what he had planned to say. The door opened, and Tom Cruise walked into the room. He looked exactly the same as he had during the car ride 3 days earlier. He was wearing casual clothes again, jeans and a simple shirt. Tom Cruise smiled and said hello to Marcus in the same friendly voice he had used in the car. Marcus stood up quickly and said hello back, but his voice sounded nervous and shaky. Tom Cruise told Marcus to please sit down and make himself comfortable. He sat across from Marcus at the conference table and folded his hands in front of him. Marcus had expected Tom Cruise to look angry or upset, but instead he looked calm and interested. This surprised Marcus and made him feel a little bit less terrified about the meeting. Tom Cruise started the conversation by thanking Marcus for coming to the meeting. He said that he appreciated Marcus taking the time to discuss what had happened during the car ride. Marcus nodded and started to say his prepared apology. But Tom Cruise held up his hand and asked Marcus to wait before explaining anything. Tom Cruise said that before they talked about the car ride, he wanted Marcus to understand something important about Elite Executive Transport. He explained that he had started the company because he believed that everyone deserved to be treated with respect and dignity. This included both the clients who used the service and the employees who worked for the company. Tom Cruise told Marcus that he had invested in the transportation business because he understood how important good service was for people who traveled frequently for work. He said that drivers like Marcus were the most important part of the company because they were the people who actually interacted with clients every day. Without good drivers, the business could not succeed. Marcus listened to this explanation and started to feel even worse about his behavior. Tom Cruise was talking about respect and dignity, and Marcus had shown neither of these things during the car ride. Marcus had treated his own boss with complete disrespect, and now that boss was being kind and understanding with him. Tom Cruise then asked Marcus to tell him about what had been happening in his life that might have affected his attitude during the car ride. He said that he could tell Marcus had been very upset and angry about something, and he wanted to understand what was causing these feelings. His voice was patient and genuinely interested. Marcus was surprised by this question. He had expected Tom Cruise to lecture him about his unprofessional behavior. Instead, Tom Cruise seemed to want to understand why Marcus had acted the way he did. Marcus took a deep breath and started to explain his personal situation. Marcus told Tom Cruise about his money problems, his difficult relationship with his ex-wife, and his struggles to support his 2 children. He explained that he worked long hours, but still could not afford to give his family everything they needed. Marcus said that these financial pressures had made him angry and resentful toward people who seemed to have easy lives. Marcus also admitted that he had made assumptions about wealthy clients, without really knowing anything about their personal situations. He said that he had thought all rich people were spoiled and selfish. Marcus realized as he was talking that these assumptions had been unfair and wrong. Tom Cruise listened to Marcus's explanation without interrupting. When Marcus finished talking, Tom Cruise nodded and said that he understood how financial stress could affect someone's attitude and behavior. He said that money problems were very difficult to deal with, especially when children were involved. Then Tom Cruise shared something that surprised Marcus. He talked about his own childhood and how his family had struggled with money when he was young. Tom Cruise explained that his father had left the family when Tom was 12 years old, and his mother had worked multiple jobs to support Tom and his sisters. They had often moved from place to place because they could not afford rent. Tom Cruise told Marcus about the different jobs he had worked before becoming an actor. He had cleaned buildings, delivered newspapers, and worked in restaurants. Tom Cruise said that these experiences had taught him to respect all kinds of work and all kinds of people. He understood what it was like to worry about paying bills and taking care of family. Marcus was amazed to learn that Tom Cruise had experienced many of the same problems that Marcus was dealing with now. Marcus had assumed that famous actors had always been wealthy and privileged. He had never imagined that someone as successful as Tom Cruise had once worried about money and worked difficult jobs. Tom Cruise explained that his difficult childhood had motivated him to work hard and treat other people well. He said that success was not just about making money or becoming famous. Real success meant using your opportunities to help other people and make the world a better place. This was why he had invested in businesses that created jobs for working people. Marcus asked Tom Cruise why he was being so understanding and kind instead of just firing him for being rude. Tom Cruise smiled and said that everyone made mistakes and deserved a chance to learn from them. He said that Marcus's honesty about his problems showed that he was a good person who had just been overwhelmed by difficult circumstances. Tom Cruise then made an offer that Marcus could never have imagined. Instead of firing Marcus, Tom Cruise wanted to give him a chance to improve his situation. He offered to send Marcus to professional training classes that would help him provide better customer service. He also offered to have Marcus work directly with the company's management team to help improve service standards for all drivers. But Tom Cruise's offer included something even more important than job training. He said that Elite Executive Transport had a program to help employees deal with personal and financial problems. The company could provide counseling services and financial planning assistance to help Marcus manage his money better and reduce his stress. Marcus could not believe what he was hearing. Instead of being punished for his bad behavior, he was being offered help and support. Tom Cruise was treating him like a valuable employee who deserved investment and care. Marcus felt tears forming in his eyes as he realized how wrong he had been about wealthy people in general, and Tom Cruise in particular. Tom Cruise told Marcus that there was one condition for this second chance. Marcus would need to commit to treating all clients with respect and professionalism, regardless of who they were or how much money they had. Tom Cruise said that every person deserved to be treated with dignity, whether they were famous actors or ordinary working people. Marcus agreed to this condition immediately. He promised Tom Cruise that he would never again let his personal problems affect his professional behavior. Marcus said that he would work hard to become the kind of employee that Tom Cruise could be proud of. He thanked Tom Cruise for giving him a second chance when he did not deserve it. As the meeting ended, Tom Cruise shook hands with Marcus and told him that he believed Marcus could become an excellent driver and a valuable team member. He said that everyone had the potential to grow and improve if they were willing to work hard and learn from their mistakes. Tom Cruise's kindness and understanding had completely changed Marcus's perspective on life. Marcus left the meeting feeling like a completely different person. He had learned that success was not about having money or being famous. Real success was about treating other people well and using your opportunities to help others. Tom Cruise had shown Marcus what it meant to be truly successful by being generous and forgiving when he could have been angry and punitive. From that day forward, Marcus became one of the best drivers at Elite Executive Transport. He treated every client with respect and professionalism. He also started taking better care of his own life by attending the financial planning classes that Tom Cruise had offered. Marcus learned to manage his money better and reduce his stress about supporting his children. Most importantly, Marcus learned that judging people based on their wealth or status was wrong and harmful. He realized that everyone had struggles and challenges, regardless of how much money they had. Marcus's encounter with Tom Cruise had taught him one of the most valuable lessons of his life: that kindness and respect should be given to everyone, and that true success came from lifting others up rather than tearing them down.